Hello, folks, and welcome to today's session. This is Wednesday, the 24th of January, 2024, and my name is Tim Clark. Today, I am your host for the Sametime meetings and chat session. However, I'm not going to be talking to you today. I'm going to hand you over in just a second to my great colleagues, Trevor Tallockson and Tony Payne, who are going to take you through this session. However, I just want to point out a couple of things to you. You can ask questions in the questions and answers section of the client that you're in. And we prefer it if you didn't use the chat, because the questions and answers show up in the attendee report. And it means if we don't get to answer any of them, we can come back to them afterwards. We will be posting this recording on our Digital Solutions YouTube channel, as we have done with the other sessions in this series. And we really hope that you enjoy these sessions, and please keep giving us your feedback about what you want to see next. With that, I'm going to hand over to Trevor and leave you all in peace. Trevor, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Tim, for that glowing introduction. And hello, everyone, and welcome to the third webinar in the Domino Deep Dive series. This webinar is Sametime 12.0.2, Why Upgrade? If you attended the Domino 14 and Sametime 12.0.2 launch back on December 7th, I presented the new features. So today, I'll be presenting these new features as a review, providing some additional information and address any questions you may have regarding them, along with deployment, upgrade, and migration. So again, thank you in advance for attending this webinar. Your feedback and all things Sametime are very important and valued to us. Here we go. Waiting for a quick response here. Apologize for the delay. There we are. There's our pretty faces, Tony. So I would like to introduce myself and my co-presenter, Tony Payne. For those of you I've met or worked with in the past, I'm the product manager for Sametime, and I've supported Domino and Sametime for over 20 years now, focusing on custom solutions and education. I actually started my career supporting Domino on the IBM I platform, which evolved into supporting Sametime as a subject matter expert. And I even spent a few years supporting digital experience as well. So in a nutshell, I feel I've been working with Domino and Sametime customers for what I perceive a very long time. But with that said, Tony has been more involved with Sametime longer than I, and has very much earned his internal title as a Sametime wizard. So Tony, I'll let you introduce yourself from here.
Thank you, Trevor. So as Trevor said, I've been with Sametime since before Sametime was a thing, which is now close to 25 years. I've actually been with the team for 28 years. I just got that note in the email this morning. So I've been around for a long time. And my goal is always to help you, the customer, be successful with our products, no matter how complicated they seem or how simple they seem. But to make sure that you are successful with the products, that you understand how they're going to work and how you can use them to your greatest benefit in the environment. Yeah, I'm certainly a senior, and I've certainly done level 3 support and development with the product for, well, ever since it began. So with that, Trevor, back to you.
Thanks, Tony. One point I do want to call out is our email addresses are on this slide for a reason. I know I speak for Tony that we welcome feedback, so don't hesitate to reach out to us. I do monitor and work on all the ideas through the AHA portal, so I do encourage you to use that platform. But if needed, send me an email and I'll do my very best to respond as quickly as possible. So before we begin, there's 3 slides I want to share. First is our nicely written disclaimer stating that content presented today is subject to change. And second, at the Sametime survey. I encourage you to take just a few minutes to provide some details about what clients are in use, if meetings are deployed or under consideration, the platform in use, and some general feedback on usage or potential reasons that may be preventing an upgrade. It's only 8 or 9 quick questions, but this feedback is very helpful in prioritizing our work going forward and understanding our customer environments. So if you don't have your phone handy, this presentation will be shared, and a URL is also provided on this slide. And I will remind you about this survey again before we end today's webinar. And third, I'm very excited to announce Sametime and Sametime Premium through both Domino and Sametime Entitlement is now available on my HCL software portal. We've received a lot of positive feedback on this platform, so Sametime is there now and we'll be going forward with new fix packs and releases. So let's review the agenda we have planned for today. I want to start by taking a few minutes to talk about Sametime and its value. We'll review the features that were added in versions 12.0 and 12.0.1, and then spend time talking about the new features that were added in 12.0.2 in more detail, which will help in answering the question, why upgrade? Tony will be covering some key concepts around deployment, upgrade and migration to help support not just the why, but how to get your environment to our latest version. And finally, we'll do our very best to answer any questions you may have. That said, I do welcome this webinar to be as interactive as possible. So Tim and Tony, if you see a question that is best answered in the moment, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. And Tony, I'll do the same for you. So why Sametime? I'll start by providing a statement, call it a mission or a vision for Sametime. It offers instant business collaboration as a solution with built-in rich chat and video meetings for the Domino portfolio. Security will always be its focus and is designed to ensure your company's data is yours and protected by your data privacy policies. When we consider its value, business collaboration is just that, as I mentioned. On the instant chat and video meetings built to work together, and also provide APIs and drop-in widgets to help support collaboration throughout Domino's portfolio of products and in your own custom applications. For lowering your total cost of ownership through its cloud native or on-premise deployments, we evaluate your investment and you can scale to your business needs. And of course, we're priced very competitively. And finally, again, data privacy. It's always viewed as critical and always remains our focus. At the same time, it's trusted by governments and banks to protect their policies with things like storage, archives, and access. It's all under the customer's administration control. Our little tagline, your meetings, your data, it's your business. And so while I was talking and introducing, how we're on my HCL software portal a few slides back, I made reference to Sametime and Sametime Premium, and it occurred to me that this may need a quick clarification. And so through Domino Entitlement, Sametime is available to deploy and use, supporting live name and awareness and persistent chat through clients such as Notes, Verse, Web, and Mobile, and then of course our own Sametime standalone clients. And with Sametime Premium, Domino entitled customers can upgrade to support meetings and advanced chat features. This offering is built for meetings and chats to work seamlessly together, providing voice, video, persistent chat, and screen sharing. As a browser solution, or a mobile or a PWA, there's no installation or plugins needed. Click a meeting if you're in, and you're in. Support for collaboration, confidential, and lecture style meetings with live streaming available as well. And support for dial in and dial out through telephony with our business partner, iLink. And so for our environments, our customers that are still on version 11.6 or even version 9, I want to take just a few minutes to review what was new in versions 12.0 and 12.0.1. And we'll start with providing, quickly review these valued features, starting with privacy and security. We added different meeting modes and member management to assign users as moderators or attendees. Branding was added to allow meetings to be customized to display a company logo and a theme, along with new custom video backgrounds. Meeting reports were added to provide and share information about attendance and a summary of all activities that occurred during the meeting. The meeting homepage was updated to provide easier access to recordings, reports, and recent meetings, and provided a better search ability to base it off of a date or the criteria of your choice. And waiting rooms were added to allow meeting moderators to grant access to an active meeting. And along with that, the pre-join experience meant for easier access to select and identify the correct audio and video device with a testing, with the ability to test the audio and video. We've provided tile sorting or improvements with tile sorting to prioritize users sharing their cameras or speaking, with a mute and noise detection added. And for our web clients, we provided the ability to pin a chat, to mute a chat, and a click to call to instantly start an audio call with the ability to activate cameras or screen share really in real time. We added an MS Outlook calendar plugin and support for Apple CarPlay and Android support. With 12.0.2, we added dashboards, which would allow you to monitor your active and past chats and meetings. For deployment improvements, we added chat-only Kubernetes support and a push proxy for secure environments that may be blocking mobile notifications. And our client platform, well, actually, we provided a client platform and APIs, updating them and enhancing them for customers to implement in their custom applications. Some more meeting enhancements, such as Safari browser support on Mac OS, better identification of audio and video access issues in our UI, improvements in audio and video device selections for browsers like Firefox, which we had some issues with initially, and additional meeting keyboard shortcuts. And finally, a network performance indicator was added to better identify when attendees were having a network connectivity issues during a meeting, and a meeting timer to track the duration of a meeting, and some great chat enhancements such as the ability to rename group chats, chat filtering to filter between a one-on-one, a group, and a meeting chat, and support nicknames from our web and mobile clients. So with awareness to all those features that we added in 12.0 and 12.0.1, I guess it's time to talk about what was new in 12.0.2, which we released last December 7th. And for this release, I mentioned this during the launch, but I'm just gonna, this is an important thing to review. We followed three main themes. First, for empowering the users, we considered, all the enhancements to increase interaction and support really the latest valued features from any device. We wanted to make administration easy, simplifying deployment, removing complexity, utilizing easy to use administration tools. And as we reviewed our deployments and upgrades in administration, wherever we identified an opportunity to simplify, that's what we pursued. And for modernizing your tool set, we continue to work on new APIs and widgets for the Domino family of products and customer solutions, providing the ability to integrate, same time everywhere. So let's get started with the first feature, which was a combined client with chat and meetings. We're basically providing a single interface to access both your chat and meetings. Prior to this, the Sametime client or chat and meeting were completely separate clients. Now they did work together from chatting and acknowledging each other, but it was separate client windows. And I do realize in this screenshot I'm showing you two separate windows, but it is the same interface, just showing you access on the chat and then the meeting. And this will show you your meeting homepage where you can access your meetings, look at your recently reviewed. As I mentioned here, you can find your recordings, your reports, delete, add, create meetings. So from our web and PWA, this is the experience that has been added, combining the two. Our mobile client has supported this for a number of releases. So this is a great move in a direction of having one interface to manage both your chats and meetings, kind of trying to eliminate managing separate clients. For chat deletion, we added this feature in our web and mobile clients. And for our notes clients, we gave the ability to acknowledge deletions. And we are pursuing with our notes embedded developers the ability to actually perform this. And another strategy we're taking forward is providing an option to launch a web client instead of the Eclipse-based chat, which will give you all of these features right away while maintaining all the features, the rich features in the contact list as we prioritize those and add them to our web-based client. So this deletion is from the client side. You're deleting your own chats. It's not removing it from the actual database server, because that's very important for many, many reasons, security reasons. The undo, that is customizable, and even the deletion is customizable. It's a policy that an admin can assign to certain users or restrict from others, and the undo can be set to unlimited. You can, as long as the data is within the database by the admin's time to live, it can be recalled, but you can scale down that ability to undo to say, okay, I'll give you 1 hour to delete a message. After that, it's staying. So the undo is customizable from the duration by an admin, and the deletion itself is a policy driven where you can assign it and restrict it to others. And this goes the same for reactions. It's a policy. So again, we can assign this policy to individuals or by client types as well. So it gives you the ability to add reactions, view who has reacted, and we're looking at, moving this forward with continued enhancements of customizing this template, right? Adding the emoticons you want. And for our group chats, we're giving you the ability to now remove users that may have been invited by mistake, or it's time for that individual to leave. And this is a starting point for us of adding group chat kind of management capabilities, with the long goal of, I don't want to say long because it is something we're working on, is really adding features to group chats where we can have chat rooms. So this is a great starting point for giving users the ability to simply remove a person that shouldn't be in the group chat they're in. From a meeting perspective or side of things, we added an in-meeting awareness. This is something that a user can toggle on and off. It's their personal choice. And it's a real-time meeting detection. If you're familiar with our Notes Embedded client, we have a calendar integration where it's simply reading your calendar. If I schedule a meeting for an hour and that meeting ended 30 minutes early, my status is simply following a calendar. So I'm going to remain busy and signifying I'm in a meeting for that full hour. Well, this is a meeting activation. It's detecting if you're in a meeting, and as soon as you leave that meeting, it auto switches to be available. So this is a very nice feature that we added to give you kind of a real-time status versus a simple calendar read. And for joining meetings, and now we're adding signifying or identifying the users that are active in this meeting. And so before joining, you know exactly the number of members that are going to be in that meeting that you're joining. If there's 1 or 100, it's good to be aware of the members or the attendees in that meeting itself. And as always, privacy, kind of users understanding where their name is going to be present, where it's going to exist moving forward. We've addressed these through advanced privacy settings when you're creating a meeting. You can do things like allow recordings not to be shared, allow the chat not to be shared outside of the meeting itself. You can restrict downloads from happening. And this is something, like, again, that a person creating the meeting is enabling or disabling. And when a person is joining the meeting, they are notified that these privacy settings are enabled. And it has a little, the window on the right shows the features that are enabled or disabled, and they can acknowledge it. Now, that acknowledgement statement that I have there with a checkbox, that is a customizable thing. We did not enable it by default. We agreed we didn't want to make every meeting you join turn into a single click experience to be a 2-click experience. But this is an option that an administrator can enable, right? Because it's very important for some environments for users to acknowledge that they are very aware, or they are aware of where their data in that meeting will exist after the meeting. And then complex passwords. We can only continue to improve on this. You heard Thomas and Tim talking about all the great password improvements. this is one step that we've taken from a Sametime standpoint of supporting complex meeting passwords. And again, like our other features, this is a feature that, or a policy that can be restricted or fully integrated to lessen or increase these requirements.
Trevor, before you move on, we have a question. You said you wanted to stop and ask questions as they become pertinent. So does the in-meeting awareness override the status from the calendar? In your example, will setting a status to I'm available override the in-meeting status from the calendar?
If the integrated calendar is enabled, it will take precedence, right? Because that is something that a user has chose to enable, right? So we need to honor that. We can't just ignore it. Now, yeah, that's where we're at today. And I welcome feedback if users find that they want it differently, but we can't, we can work with another awareness feature. We can't just override it. And so that's where it is as of today. But again, I welcome feedback on how you would like these features to work together, because
Brilliant.
9 times out of 10, they're both going to be enabled.
Right. One of the things to think about is that the in-meeting awareness, the specific feature that Trevor was showing just a moment ago on the slide here, that auto update only applies if your status is in available mode. So if you go into the meeting, then it will say, oh, you were available, now you're in a meeting because you have selected this option. If something else has already set your awareness to in a meeting or do not disturb or away, then this status will not take effect because you are already in another status.
That's fantastic clarification. Thank you, guys.
Okay, yes, keep the questions coming. That was great. Okay, so I covered privacy settings and complex passwords. So now we're talking about making administration a breeze, and I'm really excited to introduce our new admin client that was introduced in 12.0.2. It's something that has been missing, and so now we're bringing it back. The look and the theme are very similar to the new admin feature that was added with Domino. That was intentional, and Thomas and Tim and I are working on how to tie these together going forward. But from a Sametime perspective with administration, we knew managing policies was a difficult task, right? Tony and I worked with many customers over the years, getting inside that policy XML file and making sure it's just right. Well, we're removing all of that, those pain points by adding policy management to our new admin client as a first feature, giving you the ability to, copy existing ones, edit them, assign them to groups. Again, following under our theme of making administration simple. And along with that, the admin client, we integrated the dashboards for monitoring past and active chats and meetings that I mentioned we introduced in 12.0.1. That was a separate window we asked you to deploy. We're now pulling that into the admin interface. Again, along with our combined meeting and chat client, we want to bring things to be a single interface, so we're not sending you to different locations, managing different windows. Let's pull it in here, and that's what we did. So we have policy management and monitoring usage and statistics dashboard, and this dashboard is customizable. You can edit or prioritize the information you want to see. And the last thing I want to add about this admin client is this is really the starting point. The left-hand pane in this screenshot is open for a reason. We are going to be looking to drive features forward and adding to this admin client. We want this admin client to be your central hub of administration and having all the valued features. So I'm saying that again, welcoming feedback through our AHA portal of features you would like to add to this this dashboard, this admin client. Some things top of mind. We're talking about a business card administration, easy config modifications, maybe validating LDAP, or looking at client activity by client types, seeing users logging in, logging out, what client types are they using. The list can really go on and on. So feedback on what you deem important and what you would like added to this client is very important to us. So I'm encouraging feedback for the reason of building this client to be an all-in-one location where you can administrate the server without going to separate locations.
Right. There was a comment in the questions. It really wasn't a question, but it said policy was a nightmare. And I agree. In 11.6 and in 12.0 and 12.01, policy management was not any fun because you had to learn XML and had to do all kinds of manual typing. Well, in 12.02, we have this fantastic UI now where you can create and manage policies within clicks. It really is made to simplify things and is more akin or more like what we used to have in the version 9 where we had the system console, which I know brings up nightmares for a few folks. But yeah, we've certainly heard that comments and feedback from customers and have made great steps to making policy management a very easy thing to do. So hopefully we've hit that. I want everybody to see it, use it, and give us feedback. Some of the other things we'll add here will be things like managing your LDAP connections and other things that are currently somewhat manual in the config. We're working on adding those into a UI as well.
Thanks, Tony. And of course, I know Tim says I talk fast. And we do need to get moving here because I want to address questions. I see questions adding up. So I'm going to move forward here, talking about making deployment easier, right? As a new deployment option, we added the ability to utilize managed charts through Helm and Helm Dashboard. You can use Helm Dashboard to provide a graphical user interface for deployment and modification, adding support for Windows environments, meant to be easily customizable to deploy quickly. And Tony will go into this a little more detail during his deployment section. But what this allows us to do is you can now install a turn server, which is often needed when you're dealing with outside users that may be behind a restricted firewall blocking our UDP port for audio and video. And so you can deploy a turn server with Sametime now under that same container and our database or a database server, MongoDB. You can deploy within it, so it's not a separate deployment model. So again, Tony will add some comments about this under deployment. Additional support, we added K3S support, which is a kind of a lighter version of Kubernetes, along with MongoDB Atlas support. If you don't want to own your database and you want a cloud-based database, we fully support that. And we made improvements into LTPA and LDAP configuration during install. Before 12.0.2, when you installed and were integrating and working with a Domino environment using LTPA, you had to take manual steps afterwards to sometimes import that LTPA token, sometimes create it first and then import it into Domino. And what we're doing here with this install is prompting you, do you have an LTPA token you want to integrate? Yes, where is it? No, would you like us to create one? And then you create it, and then you have to go import it into products like, or your platforms like Domino. But our intent here is to address these needed steps for integration during install. And so in 12.2, continuing to talk about enhancing our APIs. After deployment, these APIs are available for you to access, such as activity monitoring, meeting services, click to call, or our chat REST API. And additionally, we've continued to work on our drop-in widgets for chat and live name. Again, for awareness, we've begun work on adding a buddy list widget, which is very important for our family of products who are familiar with working in a notes client where that contact list, that buddy list, is embedded in your client. So we want to give that experience or provide that experience wherever you are within HCL software. And so look for more information on that. I'm excited for it, but these APIs and these widgets are available for you after, I mentioned this, available when the server is installed. There's a URL at the bottom of this page pointing out sametime-api/docs. If you have a deployed chat or meeting server, if you access this URL, it will give you the pages I'm showing you right now, where we list out the APIs, our drop-in widgets, and even have some samples and demos here where you can kind of customize the different options to start with to get the look and the feel of what might be appropriate for your applications to implement Sametime into. And then, so why do we focus on enhancing our APIs? Number one, it's for our customers so they can consume and add Sametime into their own custom applications. But number two, it's for our own products to consume, providing consistency from a rich and meeting client experience wherever you are within HCL. And for moving forward, we'll be focused on updating this experience. As you see, HCL Nomad is listed here with an asterisk. This is we are looking to add Sametime integration to a Nomad here, and we're going through that work right now, and I'm excited to see Sametime will be there as well. So as you can see, 12.0.2 added a number of valued features and improvements to, again, empower the users, make administration easy, and help modernize your tool set. And so we focused on, again, it's not just about 12.0.2. I talked about 12.0 and 12.0.1, and you can see with every release, we're building on the features we added, increasing its values and its usability for our customers. And I think this is the last thing I'll mention before I switch it over to Tony. In 12.0.2, we switched our product documentation to an open source platform, which we're very excited to take advantage of, getting feedback from our customers, our advocates, to help us make our product documentation right? Making suggestions, making corrections. I know Tony and I, who work with our documentation team, very much are really looking forward to this. So I encourage you to contribute, provide us feedback on what is working on this new platform, what is not, but really about the content. Let's get it right so it's right for everybody. Oh, I did have one more thing. I said I'd remind you of the survey, and I'm doing it here again. Please take this survey. I cannot tell you how much I'm going to appreciate it. So I look forward to hearing your feedback. And with that, Tony, I'm going to switch the mic over to you.
Well, thank you, Trevor. So an excellent review of all of the new features and things that we've covered and are creating and are still working on. Actually, we always have new things coming. But let's talk about deployment for a few minutes. Let's go on to the next slide, Trevor. It's no joke, and it's not even overestimating that I have probably helped thousands of customers successfully deploy Sametime over the year. And it's when I say it's simple these days, it is incredibly simple compared to the way it used to be. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. I'll kind of give a comparison of an architecture of what it used to look like compared to what it looks now. And I'll talk a little bit about what that architecture means. But when you're deploying Sametime 12, and let's not worry about 12.01, 12.00, and 12.02, because Sametime 12 is a fully containerized solution, which means that everything runs either in a Docker or a Kubernetes environment. And what that means is that you can decide ahead of time, do I have a large deployment that needs to scale up and down with some of the redundancy features and clustering features that I would get with Kubernetes, or do I have a simple deployment that I can run under Docker or Podman because I only have a few hundred end users or a few hundred meetings that I need to be worried about, that type of thing. And those are my decision points between deciding between Docker or Kubernetes. Once you decide those, you can use Docker. I'll talk about it again in a second, but you can use Docker and even the new managed charge to have an environment up and running in hours, if not minutes, depending upon which way you choose to go in your experience level. Of course, with Sametime, we still require we now require LDAP for our directory because we're no longer tied directly to a Domino deployment. We are now independent of that, which means that you will access your Domino directory instead of using it what we used to call native Domino directory. You would now interface with that through an LDAP server, which is in most Domino cases simply turning on the LDAP task. But we certainly use LDAP for our directory services, just like we always have, and we use MongoDB for our back-end data services, specifically around our persistent chat model, your created and stored meetings, and things of that nature. So we have those two requirements that have to be available in your environment. It's very important as you get ready to deploy that you do understand what your LDAP services you're using, if you have any special requirements around that, and how you want to deploy Mongo, or if you already have a Mongo environment, or if you want to use the Mongo Cloud Atlas service to host that data for you. So it says what did not change here, the persistent chat database. For those of you that are on 11.6 or maybe even kick the tires a bit with the version 10 that we released, that persistent chat database, which is used against MongoDB, that hasn't changed. So you can continue moving that forward. If you've been with it for a while, you might be time to be looking at upgrading the Mongo portion of it, but the database itself and the rules around it hasn't changed any. And similarly, chat and meeting requirements around what your end users have and use, those haven't really changed any. So let's go on to the next page. So I wanted to kind of give everybody a flashback here real quickly to show just how far we've come. This is a sample version 9 deployment of the Sametime server or a Sametime environment that included full meetings components, included a thing called the bandwidth manager, for those of you that remember that. It included a meeting server, an advanced server, a proxy server, a gateway server, and all of these different things. These environments, as powerful as they were and as well used as they were, you never talked about deploying them. Your time to deploy them was always weeks, if not months, to get one of these fully up and running. I did it enough that I could get a good portion of it up pretty quickly, but it was never simple, and especially the more complex it became with requiring HADR services and things like that. But you know what? You can forget all of that, because now, even with 11.6, we simplified the deployment. Slide transition. To where it only required 3 basic servers in front, because in 11.6, the meetings was brand new to that environment. And we still had our standalone Sametime proxy and our standalone community servers, which sat separately. But even that, you could see, was a very simplified environment to get a full meetings and community environment up and running. And you could do this generally within a day, again, depending upon your specific requirements. And now in version 12, we have even further simplified this to where it is really a single, if you're using Kubernetes, it's not a single box or a single VM, but from an administration standpoint, it is a single host that you organize everything behind the covers. And for a Docker environment, it is literally a single host there. What is happening here? Apparently PowerPoint is still complicated at times. Whoops, go.
Sorry, Tony, where did you want to be?
That's okay. On the version 12 deployment slide, there you go.
Yeah.
And one of the great things about this is that really, and again, I'll speak to the actual deployment here in a minute, but this is an environment that you can have up and running within in a Docker environment. I have walked through training others, making mistakes and typos in the command lines, and still can have a Docker environment up from a nothing server to fully operational and available within about 30 minutes. About the same time it takes to order a pizza a lot of times. And from a network standpoint, you only have to consider 2 ports, 443 for your mobile and browser clients, and UDP 10,000 for the audio video ports. And that's it. If you have a more complex environment, or if you have more needs around traversing firewalls and NAT requirements for end users to audio video, we support using Stun and Coturn to facilitate that. but you can see here, just comparing, just in the real quick overview I showed you of a version 9 environment compared to version 12, it is incredibly simplified from an architectural standpoint. You get a Linux box, or even now we support a Windows box with Docker Desktop on it. You install the software and you're up and running very, very quickly. So let's go on down to the next slide.
I'll mention this one. If you have any other questions, or if you want to know more information about the dependencies, how the clients and the servers or services work together, we have a great course out there in the HCL Software U, introducing HCL Sametime. It's kind of like a beginner's journey where we do cover all these dependencies in a little more detail, but not too much. It's for a beginner's journey. And I encourage you guys to go watch a few videos. The presenter does an excellent job of presenting the information, and you'll have to go there to find out to really appreciate that last comment.
So there are a couple of, so there is a white paper here that we talk about. We got quite a bit of educational material out there and slideware on getting Kubernetes and Docker environments built. Docker, again, is very simple. You can literally follow word for word the documentation we have produced and get an environment up and running. And we have, because Kubernetes can be more complex, we have quite a few white papers on it. And so I certainly suggest you go through that. Now, I've got a couple of questions in the chat that I will certainly be going over. We talk about, and try to help keep me honest, Trevor, on this, that I don't forget to respond to them. There's a question around, a couple of different questions on migration. I want to make sure I cover those really well. Can I use Docker if I simply have two same-time servers? I probably would need to understand a little bit more about that, but why you have two currently. But
it's probably to just, I think it's to distribute the workload, but the answer is yes. I think definitely for that question.
Right, the answer is likely yes. It depends upon why you have two servers currently. Is it because you're geographically distributed, if it's for redundancy, or what, right? Docker does not support, the Docker deployment does not support multiple community servers because it is a single node deployment. And with Docker security, and one of the great benefits to Docker and Kubernetes is that you only open up the ports to the outside world that you need to, and the discovery mechanisms that Sametime uses to find other servers to talk to is not the same in these new environments.
So the comments just come in that it's for redundancy. Tony.
Yeah, so for redundancy, you can certainly run up two instances and it would be a hot, cold environment. And I don't want to, we've only got a few minutes left, so that's a great question that we should probably take up in a case to help you understand what we mean by a hot, cold environment, if you didn't already know that. But you can certainly run Docker up and Mongo up. There's a question on Mongo for if that can be done in a container. Absolutely. Our current production environment, both of them, MongoDB is run up inside of Kubernetes as a fully clustered Mongo environment within Kubernetes, or within Docker, you could run up a Mongo instance. Those are certainly choices you can make, or they can be run up in traditional methods. It's entirely, Sametime doesn't care how you install Mongo, it just cares that you have Mongo. And the options around Mongo are there's a lot of them. All right. So when we talk about deployment, the way I generally, it really is, the steps behind some of these might be a little more complex, or might take a little bit of study for you, depending upon your requirements, kind of like what we've been talking through the questions here. But really, you need to know you have a database. Again, MongoDB for our requirements. You need to understand your LDAP environment. You need to decide if you're going to use Docker or Podman or Kubernetes. In my world and in my language, Docker and Podman are equivalent. For those of you that are running Red Hat, newer versions of Red Hat, you know you're going to be using Podman If you're using CentOS or other clones of Red Hat, then you're going to be using Docker. But from a deployment standpoint, those are functionally the same, just other options. Kubernetes, you would use that when you need a larger environment or when you needed to scale for more meetings, more recordings, more users, in the 30, 40, 50,000 chat users, and you're going to need more community hosts than a Docker single node system can provide for you. Or you need scalability around recordings, right? And all of the different admin features and things that Kubernetes provides in those environments. And then you install Sametime. And it is not kidding at all that it takes longer in a Docker environment to download the zip file from FlexNet than it generally does to actually do the install. You're going to bring down our archive, you're going to unzip it. There is an install script that you run that asks you questions about your Mongo environment, about your LDAP environment, about whether or not you want LTPA or turn configured and things of that nature. You answer them, and then it's done. The script will complete. It will move those images out to the container platform, whether it be Docker or Kubernetes, and then it will start things up, and really you're done. Now in a Kubernetes environment, it is slightly more complex because you have more things to consider, but it still is something that is very, very simple to do from a functional standpoint. I don't. I always try to. There's always people come back, but I ran into this, and that's true. But pre-planning ahead of time and understanding how these things work still keeps it very simple compared to the days of version 9, where you had to run multiple installs and all but have a doctorate in network technology to get it up and running. Now you don't need any of those things. You simply get the code down and run it. Go on to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about upgrading and migrating. So upgrading in a V12 environment from V12.0 to 12.02 or deploying any of our fix packs is a very simple and straightforward procedure because that was our goal, right? You can upgrade in place, you can run these things, and you don't even have to really think about it beyond just making sure you keep things organized. In a Docker environment, you'll do a Docker compose down. You'll unzip the archive in the same place that you're currently running the code. We will back up files for you as needed. You will run the install.sh again, which will detect the existing environment and will copy in any of your custom settings. And then basically it will deploy the new images to the container, to Docker, and then it will start it up, and then you just simply validate. I'm old school. I've been doing this for a long time. I don't trust any installer to make appropriate backups or make sure my custom settings got brought forward until now. Our 12.02 servers, they're very, very good at bringing forward any of your custom configurations. But I always still recommend validating them. I always, it's just a good practice to have to back up the key files and to make sure you know what you've put in place. And then you start it up and you validate. It takes very little time. In a Kubernetes environment, our deployment, it's a slightly different script you run in a Kubernetes environment, but it does the same thing. It detects if you have an existing environment, it asks if you want to upgrade it, and then it walks through preserving any configurations you have in place. And it's even simpler now with our managed charts in that you can now create a custom for those of you that are familiar with Kubernetes, there's a values.yaml that maintains settings. You can now create your own custom one where you don't have to go through editing our defaults, and that will override any settings, and you can carry that with you from release to release to release. It makes it very, very simple to make these upgrades and be successful with them. And in Kubernetes, you can, even if you have problems for some reason, if you follow the steps correctly, you can roll back to the previous running state and just keep moving forward. So there's no need for any real downtime now for upgrades. You don't have to spend months planning them. As soon as we release code, you can take advantage of it. Now, migrating, I think the next slide talks a little bit about migrating. Yes, so migrating from pre-12 versions, there was a question there specifically about moving from version 8, and then please come forward with us. It really amounts to planning, not so much a tool to move all the things for you, but that you have to plan this migration because you have to, if you're not currently using LDAP, and if you're 8.0, now we've supported LDAP since I think 3 or 4. If you're not using LDAP, then you have to plan for moving the stored user info data, if you're carrying that with you, to an LDAP format, and there is name change utilities to do that for you. You have to move that data from the Domino NSF to the new Mongo database, and there's a migration tool to do that for you. And then if you have custom configurations, let's say you've tuned your Sametime settings for LDAP, or you've got custom LDAP filters, or you've changed the way the business card looks or whatever, then you need to move that custom configuration into the V12 formats, into the files that they're doing. But all of that is done separately. You never touch you didn't have to touch your existing environment. It can continue running. You make all these plans and you move the data over to the new V12 environment, and the V12 environment is running in parallel on another server. And then you can validate moving a few users. What I always do is I use a host file on the local machine so that I keep the same host name in play for my end users. And I'll do that with a local host file on my client. I'll make sure that I can log in. I'll make sure that my buddy list comes down and that it looks correct and that it's functional, because that way I can tweak and tune anything I need to. And then once I'm satisfied that all of that is working the way I expect, I can move all of my users just by changing DNS, just by making mycommunity.host.com a point to the new environment. And then everybody comes in the next morning, they're now hitting the new environment and they can take advantage of it. And if for some reason there's a problem that you didn't account for ahead of time, the backup plan is as simple as reverting the DNS change. And that's really, while there's some details in there in the moving the buddy list around and converting to LDAP, that requires a little bit of administrative action, it really does not have to be complicated to migrate and update to version 12 from any of the previous versions. These same basic steps apply. For those that are previous to V9 or V11, there might be some extra work around the converting your buddy list to an LDAP format if you're not already doing LDAP, simply because we have to get the newer code to you. You might have to take a one step there to get the newer version deployed, or a newer version deployed, to be able to take advantage of some of those utilities, because we depend upon the Java versions. But that's something that we will help you with. Get a case, get a hold of us, and we will help you get upgraded to version 12, because I really think that once you get used to the new environment and the container solutions, you will see just how easy and how powerful they can become. So how long will it take? And I know we're at 5 minutes, so I need to, how long will it take? I have deployed Docker environments and the new managed charts settings on Windows desktops in 30 minutes and been up and running. Doing a full Kubernetes environment, we have a coursework that we have taken customers and clients and managers and executives through at our DNUG and some of our other trade shows, and they're doing it within a couple of hours, and that's from a brand new system to a fully deployed Kubernetes environment with I think either 3 or 4 nodes. So it does not take long. It takes a little bit longer just to get used to the new way of doing things, and migration is not really a long process. It's just a matter of stepping through the things you need to do and then getting it done and validating it. But none of these take weeks or months to get deployed. These things are hours, if not minutes, depending upon the complexity of your environment. So it does not take long. And I just encourage everyone to take advantage and ask the questions they need to so that they'll feel comfortable with the new way of doing things. I think that's it. I think we're now at questions and answers.
Yeah, and I think I've been answering these as they've been coming in. One just came up about same time client Notes 10 version. Will it work with 12? And keep me honest here, Tony. I believe our persistent chat started in 11 or possibly was 10. But it will connect and work with a version 12 server. And if persistent chat was not supported until version 11, what that Notes 10 client will have is the traditional non-persistent chat, the classic view.
The
right?
classic view. That's right. We've been very conscious of trying to keep backwards compatibility with our clients. Obviously, new features. If you hook up a version 10 Notes client to a Sametime 1202 server, you'll not see anything around reactions or deletions or any of the new fancy things, but you will get basic chat and awareness. And so we've been very conscious of trying to keep that working. What we don't want you to do is have a mix of clients. And it's not so much that is a problem from the client perspective, other than you'll confuse your users. A fancy user that's got a version 12 client will have all these features, and your version 9 user will go, hey, where's mine? So we really want you not to have a mixed client environment where possible. But as far as basic functionality with older clients, you should still be able to do that. There's a question about Active Directory. I don't quite see the answer there, but yes, Active Directory is supported by Sametime. You don't need anything in Domino to make that work. That's always been the case. The only time you need something in Domino or with Active Directory is if you're doing a Domino environment and you have mail and you have inbox awareness and things like that, and then there's some work to be done. But beyond that, Active Directory is supported out of the box. You just need to know your settings.
And while there's I think a few more questions I want to try and answer, but I just wanted to show this slide saying that if you want to try out these new features that we've been talking about and presenting, we have our HCL Sophie environment and we have our HCL Sandbox. Sophie, you're deploying your own little private server for the period of time you've defined, and the Sandbox is up and running all the time. So you can just register, log in, test the meetings. We don't have chat in the Sandbox. It's only the meeting experience that you're testing there. And I think I had one more slide to share, and this was just about contacting your HCL business rep if you're interested in not only just upgrading, but maybe just interested in bringing Sametime back. As I mentioned, for Domino CCB customers, chat-only installs are available, and you'll find it when you log into My HCL Software or FlexNet. You can deploy and use that. So if you're in a situation where you used Sametime in the past and maybe it's not being used anymore and you're interested in bringing it back, please get us involved. Myself and Tony are as available as possible, and we have our HCL business partners and reps that can help you along the way as well. And then just a reminder of the upcoming webinars scheduled for the next 4 weeks, being back to Domino 14 focused. And I know Tim or Thomas will continue doing an excellent job of presenting those. And that was now the end. So looking back at some quick questions, we are at the top of the hour. We're going to take these questions and I can answer them the best I can. I've answered a lot of these questions saying to open a support case or contact Tony and I to help answer them further. I'll do our best to respond to them in a timely manner. Do you see anything in here, Tony, we want to kind of address here real quick?
There's a question, where's the 30-minute process to install the Docker configuration? I literally walk through the documentation that we have published on the, I want to say Info Center because, wow, through our documentation portal. It really is about 30 minutes, and even if you're making typos and you're talking about it, if you just follow those steps, step by step by step, it took me generally 30 minutes to get it done. Now, I'll grant you, I've been doing this for a long time, so I don't question the commands I'm typing, once I understand them, and that makes it a little faster. but it's still a very quick process to get it done. I've said it before. It is so simple, it's complicated because you're thinking. I'm used to installing hundreds of things to make this work. I'm used to having to go through a complicated install shield wizard to make this thing run, and then having to go change things and configure things. And it just isn't that way anymore. And as you get more experience with the way we configure things, it becomes even more things you can change that are even simpler because it's a simple text file edit versus having to run anything complicated or install new code for. There's a note about thought you couldn't use the embedded client in Notes 9 with
The new same time links.
It's not really something we're going to recommend you do, right? Because we want you to use the newer clients, but it should still work from a chat and awareness standpoint. One of the
Using
things
that classic chat. Yep.
And if you're in Notes 9, yeah, if you're in Notes 9, that will be out of support in the middle of the year anyway. So we'd recommend you upgrade to a newer version of Notes soon, either 12 or 14 as soon as you can anyway.
Right. It is not something that we closely test either at this point. So you might run into something we're not expecting, but it should still work for basic functionality purposes.
Yep. Question about where the slides will be presented, I believe, after the webinars. It's either the series is completed or it's providing them as we complete them individually. They will be provided to anyone that registered for the webinars.
So what we're doing is we've got a knowledge base article being published in the next couple of days that we're going to be able to attach the links to the PDF version of the slides on. That's currently in editorial, so that should be published in the next day or two, and then we'll add slides and links to the video replays as and when we get them.
And Roberto,
you should be able to search for Domino Deep Dive in the knowledge base and find that article.
Yeah, Roberto has a client using 6.5. Again,
get them to upgrade.
Yeah, products built to run forever, but Roberto, please let's work on getting them upgraded. There was a question about replacing existing office phones. That click to call feature, I think, can accomplish that. Contact me, we can vet out those details, but that is a click to call audio that can be converted to a meeting in the moment with videos and screen sharing. So I do believe there's an opportunity there.
Right. I think there was a question earlier, and I know we're running over, and I'm thankful that everybody is still with us. There's a question earlier about using the API to launch meetings from Volt. And that is certainly something that the API is available for, and we're working with our Volt and Verse and all of our other teams to integrate with the newer API version so that things like that are possible. But if you take a look at there was a slide that showed it, and I answered in one other question. There's a link to the API that you can use for any running server. So run yourself up a Docker instance, hit the server, hit the API, and you can see all of the things that are currently available to take advantage of. And then from there, let us know, give us feedback about some particular call or thing you want to do that you want to sample for, and we'll see what we can do to get that available.
Yeah, and I did test it out. I think that Sametime -API/docs, DOCS/ you could access that from that sandbox environment that I shared, and if you spun up a Sophie. So
yes, absolutely.
It's there. You could be looking at it within 5 or 10 minutes.
Brilliant, thanks guys. We're going to wrap this up here. Thank you everyone for joining us and staying with us to the end. It's been a great session. Thank you to Tony and to Trevor for giving us such great information. And thanks to all of you for coming along and asking such great questions to further the understanding for everyone. Looking forward to seeing you all next week when we talk about the next subject, which I can't remember what it is. But yeah, we'll be back with, I can't even remember. But yeah, we'll be back next week. And then the week after that, we'll be doing clients. And then we'll be looking at, we've done security. We'll be looking at some more administration, I believe, and then some app dev. So we'll look forward to seeing you in the next meetings. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.